Okay, welcome back to Third and 23. I'm your host, Alex, here to bring you my first NFL Week 1 pick and prediction video. We're gonna talk Browns versus Bengals, Steelers versus Jets. If you're new to the channel, I do NFL and college football betting picks and prediction videos. And I track my ATS standings here just so you can see how well I'm doing. If you want to go opposite of me because I'm doing terrible, if you want to tell me because I'm doing well. So, been preoccupied with some other stuff. So in this video for this week, I'm only doing two games: Browns versus Bengals, Steelers versus Jets. Let's go ahead and get into it. Oh, and if you're curious, last season for the NFL, 54% ATS, not bad, but goal is always 60%. So first game, Bengals visiting the Browns. Obviously, division rivalry, in-state rivalry. Numbers here, we only can talk about what guys did in 2024. Joe Burrow, Ja'Marr Chase, Chase Brown. I think they have that trio, right? Chase Brown is everybody's expected breakout player this season. You have Burrow threw for nearly 5,000 yards. Ja'Marr Chase, top wide receiver in the game right now. So they got that balance that you expect, that you like to see from an offense. And then defensively, they finally got rid of their DC of, I believe he was there 6 years. And they hired Al Golden. Is he an upgrade? That's the question. I think Al Golden is a pretty good defensive mind. How is he going to be able to add to this defense for this upcoming season? As the Bengals didn't make too many roster changes on that side of the ball. They're still going to be carried by Trey Hendrickson, 17.5 sacks last season. He brings the heat off the edge, but who else is out there that can help him out on that side of the ball? For the Browns, Stefanski, he's on the hot seat of head coach. He goes out and gets Tommy Rees to be the offensive coordinator. I don't know if that's going to pay dividends, but he probably can't get an OC when you're on the hot seat, so I understand it. They're going to go with 40-year-old Joe Flacco at quarterback. Look at this Browns offense. It's Joe Flacco throwing to Jamari Thrash, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman. That's not exactly a who's who of wide receivers. They do bring back Jerome Ford at running back. He averaged 5.4 yards a carry last season. And they got a lot of the offensive line intact. And they were pretty decent at run blocking a year ago, if you look at run block efficiency numbers. So I think the Browns in this game, the Browns might be able to run the ball a little bit. But they're not going to have the balance that the Bengals are going to have. By the way, their pass defense, I should have said pass defense there, but they were, as for all the talk about Denzel Ward, defensively, Cleveland wasn't that very good against the pass last season against Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins. That's a recipe for disaster in this one. So I like Burrow and the Bengals to be able to move the ball through the air. I do believe Chase Brown is that breakout player this season, so I think he's going to give them that balance on the ground. And 40-year-old Joe Flacco, we saw him in Indy last season. This man is, forget fumes, man is done. It's not going to happen for him. So go ahead and give me Bengals laying the 4.5 in this one. Okay, next up, let's go to the Jets versus the Steelers. Steelers visiting the Jets. This game, they opened at well, this is actually a 2.5-point favorite. By the way, I've already did my bet last night. This has actually moved up to 3 on a lot of books, so just keep that in mind. This is a revenge game in some ways for both teams, right? They essentially traded quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers was on the Jets last year. Now he's the Steelers quarterback. And Justin Fields was on the Steelers last year, started a few games. Now he's the Jets quarterback. So kind of a revenge factor for both of these guys. So the Aaron Rodgers era begins. I'm somebody who thinks that Aaron Rodgers is obviously an all-time great Hall of Fame quarterback, but he is definitely on fumes. He's been on fumes the last few years. He's had his worst QBRs over the last few years. You look at his numbers, you say, man, his touchdown interception ratio isn't so bad. That's because this man isn't putting the ball out there like that to where it can be picked off. That's why the offense has been so conservative. At least it wasn't with New York. And now you go to Pittsburgh, an offense that's been conservative for years. So I expect nothing to change there. They basically traded out George Pickens for DK Metcalf. Otherwise, the offense and they lose Najee Harris. So the offense is essentially the same because I don't think losing Najee means anything. And Metcalf, Pickens, who's better? It's up to you. So the Steelers are going to be carried by their defense yet again. They were 6th in the league against the run last season. They were 20th against the pass. They made some additions here on the defense side of the ball, getting guys like Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey on the back end. See if these acquisitions pay off. They still got TJ Watt up front. I think they're going to have a pretty tough front seven. And they should carry the load, especially in this game against a Jets offense that is very limited. You got one wide out, Garrett Wilson. You got Justin Fields, who's never really been a passer to the level of a top NFL quarterback. So can he get the ball to Garrett Wilson in this game? And my guess is no. You got Brees Hall running the ball, but I don't think he's gonna have a big game running the ball in this one. So for the Jets to have any chance in this one, it's gonna be Justin Fields making plays with his legs, scrambling out, making broken plays, taking off running, or scrambling, hitting somebody down the field on a broken play. That's how the Jets can be able to move the ball in this one. And also to note, defensively, the Jets bring in a new defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks. They're changing from a 3-4 to a 4-3. So how is that reflected in the defensive roster, right? They didn't make a lot of acquisitions on the defensive side of the ball, so now guys are going to be playing in different spots than what they were used to playing. You look at the Jets last season, they weren't that bad against the pass. A lot of people think Sauce Gardner had a bad year, and he kind of did, but it wasn't terrible, right? And the Jets overall weren't terrible in the back end. Mediocre against the run, maybe new DC Steve Wilks changes that. When I look at this game, I'm looking at a quarterback on fumes versus a quarterback who's never really done it, with offensive firepower on the Jets that's very limited. Steelers firepower, though, is very limited as well. To me, this is a very, very defensive game. But at the end of the day, the Jets just can't really move the ball outside of broken plays from Justin Fields. So I'll go ahead and take the Steelers, and I'll lay the 2.5. Aaron Rodgers is somebody I would trust more in a tight game to execute down the stretch than Justin Fields. So anyways, that wraps it up. It's 2 games on tap for you. We'll have more for you next week and beyond. But Steelers laying the 2.5 and the Bengals laying the 4.5, which by the way is going up to 5 on some books. All right, take care.